Great. So, hi everyone. I'm Tracy Laux. I am a QA tester, UX designer, project manager here at Element 84, weird hybrid. So I'm going to be talking today about automated testing with Cypress. Cypress is a end-to-end JavaScript testing framework. I say so easy a QA tester can do it kind of as a tongue-in-cheek tagline to this presentation because the main point of this presentation is that automated testing just as a QA tester is not really feasible. You need a lot of developer support, especially if you are someone who can't code like me. So as a bit of background, my first project here at Element 84 I started about 2 years ago. It was a video streaming service. So it covered a web app and then about 11 different platforms on top of that. So the whole team consisted of 16 developers and one QA tester. So everybody was full-time on that project. So it was 16 100% allocated outputs of development versus one tester. So obviously there was a huge backlog there. So a lot of the feedback that I got in my performance reviews was, hey, maybe you should set up some automated tests. Maybe we should help her set up some automated tests. And I agreed. I thought that would be awesome to make a computer do my job for me, and I had so many ideas of what I could do instead. So I really wanted to get into it, but I was like, yes, let's do it, and didn't really know where to start. So we came up with a few ideas. The first thing, and I think it's probably the first thing out of everybody's mouth, is trying Selenium WebDriver. I don't know, not to offend anybody here, I don't know if it's like if anybody is working on it, but for me, as someone who can't code and honestly doesn't know very many things, but I googled Selenium WebDriver and it was like in a GitHub repo and it just looked very intimidating and I didn't know what any of the words meant and I didn't understand how to actually implement it, and that was really intimidating to me, and I knew that I was going to need a lot of developer support. So then we also didn't really know how much time was going to be given to me, like for help, or how much we could put into this, and we didn't have a lot of client buy-in, so we knew it wasn't going to be very much. So then everybody was like, well, Tracy, you don't really need to code. You can do behavior-driven development because that's actually in written English. And again, I don't want to offend anybody because I know that behavior-driven development is people feel very, very strongly about it. I didn't take to it. I didn't quite understand how the English was going to become automated tests, and I know that's probably just my own misunderstanding, but Kevin and I kind of talked through it, and I was like, okay, so I wrote the given when then statement, what happens now? And he was like, well, I need to define some stuff, and I was like, okay, so we're still coding. All right, so it just didn't quite fit for how much time we had and how many resources we had. And then the other two, these are kind of testing frameworks for organizing when you do actually have automated tests. One is Qtest, the other was Zephyr, and mostly I just wanted both of them because I wanted to look really cool, because they're just like these awesome like suites of where you can like organize all your tests and then you can share them with people and you just look super cool. But again, I was a department of one, so they were like, those are really expensive. Maybe you don't really need that. So the kind of sad end of that story was we couldn't figure out anything by the time that particular project actually ended. So it was just me manually testing, which ended up, being fine. But once I started on a new project, Colby actually was like, we already figured this out for you. You're using Cypress. And I was like, neat. So that was one of the reasons why I picked it, because it was handed to me. It was already set up. Another reason was that actually we found out that another team at Element 84 was already using Cypress, and they picked it because it had really nice APIs that were easy to use. To me, it has this really nice, and I'm about to pull up the video, it just has like a really nice website with a bunch of documentation, and it just felt a lot easier to just kind of get in the right headspace, basically. Figure out what actually is going on, especially for someone who is so novice as I am. So I'm not gonna I don't want to just show their full intro video, but I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like, and I couldn't show you what it looks like on our stuff. But it looks super cool. It basically, you can see it kind of like your website or service is like on one side of the screen, and then it runs and kind of spits out all of your output. So hopefully this isn't too loud. But I'm going to skip ahead because it's like,
open source test.
It's a testing platform, and we've already covered that.
Setup, writing,
Alright, so here's what it looks
various
like.
login states of your application.
It just runs it, and then you get all these green check marks when everything works, and if something doesn't work, it tells you why, and it's very easy even for someone like me who's new.
Or make sure things look good on mobile responsive views.
And it's just really satisfying to watch the little
ghosts. Much more control over your application. You can write tests in a way that was not possible.
So, okay, we don't need to watch the whole thing, but cool. So yeah, wait, I thought you said that you couldn't code. So how are you actually gonna write this stuff? I had a lot of help, and his name's Colby, and he's here. But so I had a ton of help getting set up. Colby like walked me through a bunch of command line git to actually get Cypress downloaded and get me set up in our code and everything. So that was awesome. He actually made me a Git cheat sheet so I could learn how to commit my own code, and I cannot do anything without having that in a new tab because I'm scared that I'm going to delete our entire code repository, even though I don't think that's possible. I'm just convinced I'm going to do it. But the Cypress Recorder is a browser plugin where I can just go to localhost and then hit record, and it will take all of my clicks and then spit out the JavaScript. So a lot of the times that if you just plug that into your automated test, it's like, no, that doesn't work, which is kind of silly because it's their code. But it's a very, very good learning tool just to see how different JavaScript elements kind of work together, and then you kind of just use that as little training wheels, and then eventually you can just learn. And then I found that Cypress had a very helpful syntax library, and I was able to understand what all of the different terms meant, and it even has best practices, which I found out I was violating most of them, and so but that was good to know because that's how you learn. So it was not as hard as I thought, but I still spent a lot of time on it. So once you actually get your tests working locally, you get to brag to the people that told you in your performance reviews that you actually did it. I didn't show his response because I didn't want to name names, but he was like, nice job. So yeah. So basically everything was working locally, and it was awesome, and I had all the green check marks, and I was, bragging, and everything was perfect. So end of presentation, right? Wrong. So why test great till they gotta be great? So we deployed all of the tests, and once they got into, so they were working locally, but we continued to spin up more and more tests. It wasn't even that many. I think we only got to 6 different automated tests. And they weren't very large, but when they would run through our continuous integration tool, we're using Jenkins, they would intermittently fail, but they weren't failing locally, so we were kind of scratching our heads a little bit. Obviously, debugging these issues went way over my head, as you're going to find out when I try to explain the issues. So I had to just constantly bother DevOps or other developers just to get help, because basically I was causing a bunch of people to not be able to deploy their code anymore, because it got to the point where we just couldn't deploy anything to any environment just because one line of code was just timing out, and it didn't give us the best reason why. So these are all kind of theories as to why and how we tried to fix them, but we added a lot of logic that waited for requests to finish and just kind of sprinkled general timeouts throughout the code. But we were still seeing these intermittent failures, so we actually ended up adding an ignore so that when the tests themselves did fail, we just didn't get notified, and the code would still deploy. So basically, the end of the story is that we wrote all these automated tests, and now we're ignoring them when they actually flag something. So the problem there is that when they actually do catch something real, we're not gonna know, or we will, but it's not barring the deploy. So the whole point of the automated test is now being ignored, so we are going to need to revisit that and get it fixed so that the automated tests are actually doing their job. So we were kind of puzzled, you could say, about all of this. And then yesterday I did a practice presentation of this, and somebody at our company was like, wait, this is happening to us too. But not as severely, so we need to kind of like talk to them. It's not, they can actually still deploy, but it kind of like frustrates them every once in a while. So yeah, if you have more detailed questions about this specific part, Colby would be the guy to ask. But yeah, so basically, if I had to go back, or if somebody asked me, which somebody did yesterday, so that's why I included this, even though we had all these problems, I would still recommend Cypress, but only if you have a ton of help or you yourself are a developer and actually know what's going on. But I don't know if anybody came here because they are exclusively a QA tester. Sorry, I probably should have asked that at the beginning. But it does take a village. But I guess that's true of any automated testing, is kind of my theory now. And then, but there is a good chance that it will make you go insane in the brain. Obligatory Cypress Hill reference. All right, so there we go. That is my full presentation. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do you know, does Cypress, is it using like Chromium, like Chrome, or is it?
Oh, I know this one. It's using Electron. Oh, wait, no, it's not Cypress that's using it. It's Jenkins that's using it.
Yeah. So locally, when you run it like on your machine, it's using Chrome. But when you run it on the CI, it's using Electron. So we think that might be one of the issues too, that it's the different browser.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Someone mentioned yesterday.
Resources.
Yeah, somebody mentioned yesterday, like potentially doing it through browser stack, which I think you can.
We just haven't had a chance.
Yeah.
Into it yet, but.
Like when the intermittent failures started cropping up, it brought everything to a standstill, and we actually had like a really important demo or the client, I guess, had a very important demo, and we were just trying to get these features in, but it kind of just came to like the last minute decision. All right, we tried everything possible. We just need to kill these tests right now and get the actual manually tested code in there. So it's kind of interesting because people are like, well, if you get the automated test written for it, you won't have to manually test it. But there's a big, well, especially right now because they're not really working, but there's a big part of me that, like, even though I know that there's an automated test, there's like the QA guilt that's like, maybe take a look at it anyway. So yeah. Any other questions? No.
No, I was just curious.
I'm just kidding.
You mentioned the browser plugin that generates
The Cypress
tests.
recorder?
Yeah. So what is it? Is it generating like JavaScript code, or is it Cypress on its own? Oh, so
Yeah. So it's entirely JavaScript, right? But there are certain like specific commands.
Yeah. So I mean, it's much like if you were using JAMstack. You really ain't testing it. It's their own library that does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a lot of like sci.url. There's a lot of that. Sci.wait is apparently what you're not supposed to use, and that's what I was definitely putting everywhere in the code, because like even locally it would time out like a little bit. So I knew, I kind of got a taste that would actually be a problem. And then I was like looking around Cypress documentation. It was like, you don't need to do that. And I was like, but I do. Like I need to do something because it's timing out. So I had to kind of take a step back. There were a lot of times that I put stuff into code review just for advice, which also probably isn't what you're supposed to do, but I got a pass because I'm new. So yeah, so I had a lot of help, and I'm really grateful that I have a really good team that was patient and nice and taught me a lot of stuff. So it was like a really frustrating experience at times, especially for Colby. Like shout out to Colby, man. Like I tortured him for a solid week. But yeah, so it's good now. Well, it'll be better once we get the tests working again.
So is it something you download on your computer first, like if you want to test it locally?
It's just like an NPM package.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, so I had to get set up with that, and then just like access to everything. I just kind of sat there and was like, I don't want to delete anything.
Yeah, I mean, like if you always run them locally, it works great. But we wanted to try to incorporate where they're not, like, so it's an automated fashion, so that we can keep an eye on it. Like we run our linter on a commit hub, but we don't want to run the test every single, or the integration test every single time. So if we once it builds, then we actually test on the bucket that we deploy to.
Yeah, we had an issue like this where you just some wrapper around Selenium, and it's always like a Chrome driver version mismatch issue.
Interesting.
Like that. So there might be something there.
Yeah, I know you think do support. Sorry, I know you keep using.
No, it's fine.
I did see something. We just again, it's one of those things that we want to try, but we just haven't had a chance to check that out yet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's cool that you guys are being open about like issues that you're having specifically with like testing. Because yeah, I mean like I've ran sort of like static and dynamic security tests specifically like for doing QA. And yeah, we've had issues in the past as well. But it's like you find the issue at the bottom of like a GitHub issue, and it's like, oh, okay, let me try that. It's like great, that works. So
Thank you for saying that. That was really
Yeah.
nice. I'll be honest though, I signed up for this presentation before before everything broke. So
You
I'll
see,
be
that's
honest.
like the best slide of it, Lizzo.
Yeah. Well, that was actually my very first slide, and then I had to build the entire presentation around it. Nobody laughed. It's fine. We'll talk about it later. But cool. All right. Who's next?
I'm sorry, the plugin like shows you the JavaScript code that you provide manually for the
The Cypress, like the recorder.
That's what it does.
Yeah, I should have like got a screenshot of it, but yeah, it's really really cool. It's just like a browser plugin, and then it like you hit record and you just click around, like you can type, and it just records all of the stuff that you would need to write in Cypress. You might be able to like.
That's actually really funny. I had to write one of those stuff one time, and I just thought it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh wait, you have it too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't see it on the screen though, but
Oh, okay.
so that doesn't help at all.
Why can't you? All right. Well, where'd it go? Okay. But yeah, so if I just clicked like two things, but in the top of the in the browser there, it's like really really tiny, but you can just copy all of that out. I mean, that was like I clicked like two things, but it's really nice because if I wanted to like see that a certain header was like showing up a specific like, or one of the things that I did a few times was like an error banner or a success banner at the very top. I was able to like figure out what that element actually was called, and stuff that would have taken me a lot longer as just somebody who doesn't know any code. And then it got to the point where I was actually like way more comfortable with it, and I with any website you kind of just like start seeing repeated patterns and stuff. So then I was actually like, I'm pretty sure I already know what this is, and then I would actually use the Cypress recorder to like check myself. But it was also kind of frustrated because you would think that like if I used the Cypress recorder fully and then immediately copied and pasted it into Cypress itself, that it would automatically pass because like it's their code. But a lot of the times it wouldn't fully pass. So then you would kind of have to go through and be like, oh, you need to like tweak one or two things. But it gets you like 90% of the way, I would say, and usually 100% of the way. But it was always kind of funny. And then it's like easy to copy to your clipboard, and yeah, it's good. Yeah, cool.